just to say again, a very warm welcome to Aya Santa Chitta. It's a real honor to have you here, Aya. So thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you.
And I want to just say a little bit about you formally, and also a little bit about how we met. So Aya Santa Chitta was born in Austria, of course, before she was a bhikkhuni, and did her graduate studies in cultural anthropology, focusing on dance, theatre and ritual. She also worked in avant-garde dance theatre as a performer and costume designer. In 1988, she met Ajahn Buddhadasa in southern Thailand, who sparked her interest in Buddhist monastic life. She's trained as a nun both in the East and West since 1993, primarily in the lineage of Ajahn Chah, and has practiced meditation for over 30 years. Since 2002, she's also received teachings in the lineage of Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. Santa Chitta Bhikkhuni co-founded Aloka Vihara Monastery, that's in California, in 2009, and received the Bhikkhuni ordination in 2011. So you'll notice there how long it can sometimes take for people to actually have the opportunity to ordain as Bhikkhunis. Yeah, from 1993, she was ordained, and then only in 2011 the opportunity was possible. Since moving to the US, she's also greatly benefited from Bhikkhu Analaya's teachings on early Buddhism and from the guidance of Khenpo Konchog Nyima Drolma.
Khenmo, not Khenpo, Khenmo. Khenpo is the for the man, and Khenmo is she's a bhikkhuni.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's particularly interested in creating sanctuary close to nature, living in community, and bringing wisdom traditions to the environmental movement. So I'd also just like to say that I've been very privileged to be able to spend quite a few months actually over there with you, Aya. I think I spent 2 months in 2016 when we just begun this project, the Bhikkhuni project in England, and also in the following year I stayed for a couple of months during a winter retreat, and it's just been so inspiring to me to see a really mature group of bhikkhunis, you know, living harmoniously, really being honest, you know, about where they're at and working with what arises, and also being committed to, you know, the environmental movement. I know Aya in particular, you know, that's very close to your heart, and also, you know, the recent activism, joining of demonstrations that you've done for the Black Lives Matter movement. It's inspiring. And definitely recommend anyone here, if you ever get the chance to go over to California, to go and visit. And I've also gained a lot from being around you and learning, you know, from your many years in monastic life. So thank you very much. And it's really an honor to think of you as my elder sister and friend, and really lovely to have you here today. So thanks for coming. And I'm going to hand over to you to lead us this evening in the schedule that you've planned for us. So over to Aya Santa Chitta. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sister. It's lovely to see you, and you know, I'm so happy that you're hanging in there with the Anukampa project, and you know, even it's not necessarily all smooth going, you know, and it takes time. It's you know, you have to just stay with it, and then things will open up. You know, with us it was just like that, and you know, I thought it's going to take about 5 years to come to the place where we are now, you know, with our project, and it took actually 10. It took double the time, you know, and so but not a day was kind of wasted, because it's all practice anyway, you know, the whole setting up, developing a community and developing a place, it's all grist for the mill. And so we need to have some kind of an occasion, you know, where we can notice where we are at with our practice, and setting up a Bhikkhuni Vihara is a worthwhile thing to do. So, you know, I wanted to start today with the Arahant Bhikkhuni chant, which we have here, and this is the Aloka Vihara chanting book. And I wanted to chant that, you know, as a blessing for you and for your project, Chanda, and then also, you know, for everybody on the call today, because I think we are all going through very unsettling times now, all around the globe. And, any lineage of blessing we can connect with is very helpful, for steadying ourselves in this time. And that's exactly what we need, to be grounded and then to really look into our hearts, what is our calling, inside of this huge human experience we call evolution, what is our calling, so that we can, live our practice and embody our practice in a way which is inspiring for us and which also is benefiting other sentient beings. So I'd like to start with the chant, and this chant is based on a sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, and it speaks about the 13 foremost Arahant Bhikkhunis at the time of the Buddha. And I have received the chant many years ago from Bhikkhuni Ramananda, who was then Dr. Kapil Singh, and she's one of the foremost, outstanding nuns in Thailand at the moment, who have been really very much trailblazing. And she gave me the text many years ago. I don't remember, maybe like even, I think it was in the early 2000s, I think. And then I was thinking we can guide you into a meditation, and then I would read out the chant in the English translation as well. And, for you to just take in the blessings of this lineage of the Bhikkhunis, which is very ancient. And, those Bhikkhunis mentioned here in this chant, they have lived as contemporaries, alongside the Bhikkhu Sangha at the time of the Buddha. And still, we remember their names because the Buddha has been praising them for their qualities. And they have also left us the poems of the Therigatha, which, is one of the few works from the Pali Canon which made it into world literature, really, which have been translated, so many times into English, and now it gets translated into other languages as well. So to connect with that lineage of blessings, that can give us a sense of strength, in times where there's so much uncertainty. So I'm just going to chant it, and you just open your minds and hearts, and just receive the blessings. Ratanyunang Bhikkhuni nang Gotami Chinamatu cha Tapita Akatanam Hisata Soting Karotuvo Mahapanyanang Akata Kemateriti Pakata Savika Buddha Seta Sasata Soting Karotuvo Teriyu Palavanna Chaiti Mantina Muttama Savika Buddha Seta Sasata Soting Karotuvo Vinyayatari Nangaka Patta Charati Visuta Tapita Akatanam Hisata Soting Karotuvo Tammakati Kanang Pavara Tammadinati Namika Tapita Akatanam Hisata Soting Karotuvo Chayikanang Bhikkhuni nang Nanda Teriti Namasa Agatana Tita Ahusata Soting Karotuvo Arata Viriyana Ngaka Sona Teriti Namika Tapita tata tanam hisata soting karotuvo Dipachaku kangaga sakula iti visuddha Visuddhanayana sapisata soting karotuvo Kuntala kesi bhikkhuni kipa pinyana muttama tapita yeva tanam hisata soting karotuvo teri pada kapilani puppachati namanusari tasangyeva bhikkhuni nang sata soting karotuvo Teri tu patakachana mahapinyana muttama Chinena sukhatukang sasata soting karotuvo Lukhachi varatari nangaka kesapikotami Tapita akatanam hisata soting karotuvo Sikala mata bhikkhuni sata dimutta namuttama karotuvo mahasanting arogyan cha sukhang sata anya bhikkhuniyo sapa nana gunatarapahu palentuvo sapapaya sokarokati sampava Sotapanya tayo seka satapanya siladika Pakaso kilesa tahana sata soting karotuvo. So that's the text in Pali. And now just find a posture, you can sustain for about 30 minutes. And bringing the body and the mind together, but just becoming aware of the weight of the body sitting on the cushion or on the chair, and maybe feel the energetic quality of this listening to the chanting that does something to the body. It certainly does something to the energy of the one who is chanting. Simply being aware of the body, breathing in and breathing out. And whenever the mind wanders off, which it naturally does, just gently bringing it back, familiarizing the mind with an object which isn't particularly exciting. It's just the body, just the breathing, just nature. So I'm now going to read the translation into English. Recollection of the foremost Arahant Bhikkhunis. Among Bhikkhunis of long standing is Gautami, maternal aunt of the Buddha, attained to the supreme state. May the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. As foremost in great wisdom, Khmer-English is renowned. Disciple of the excellent Buddha, may the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. Upalavana Theri is the highest of those with psychic powers. Disciple of the excellent Buddha, may the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. As the foremost among Vinaya experts, Patachara is famous. attained to the supreme state. May the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. As the most excellent of Dharma teachers, Dhammadina is named, attained to the supreme state. May the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. Among nuns who cultivate meditation, Nanda Theri is named, established in the supreme state. May the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. As the foremost of energetic ones, Sona Theri is named, established in that state. May the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. As the foremost of those with the divine eye, Sakula is famous. With seeing well purified, may the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. Kundalakesi Bhikkhuni is the most excellent of those with quick intuition. Established in this very state, may the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. Parakapilani is the foremost of those remembering previous births. May the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. Padakachana Theri is the greatest of those with higher knowledges. Having conquered pleasure and pain, may the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. Kisa Gotami is the foremost of those wearing coarse robes. Attained to the supreme state, may the power of her qualities always be a blessing to you. Sikalamata Bhikkhuni is the highest of those resolved on faith. May the power of her qualities always bestow great peace, health, and happiness on you. May these and all the other qualities of the Bhikkhunis dispel all fear, sorrow, and illness. Those who are stream enterers and all others in training, endowed with faith, wisdom, and virtue, with impurities partially burned away, may the power of their qualities always be a blessing to you. And now, if you're able to do so, just bring up in your mind or visualize one of those bhikkhunis or a group of bhikkhunis, and feel their wisdom and their steadiness. And how they can care for themselves and for others from a place of strength and love. And just, let them show you what is possible for you too. And, they smile at you and you smile back. Because it's those very same qualities, which live in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to recognize them or visualize them. Take in that mirroring from them. Receive it fully, and fill your body, your heart, and your mind with those qualities being of strength and love and courage, being mirrored back to you. And then, the bhikkhuni reaches under her robe and pulls out a gift for you. And, you reach out your hands and she puts a little gift into your hands. Which is going to be a clear symbol of what you need to practice with in order to develop that steadiness, that grounding, that courage. And just, look what it is. And if you can't quite see it, maybe you have to unwrap it or hold it to the sunlight to see what is it. a very clear symbol of what you need to stay steady, loving, and strong in these very difficult times. And then you can just, thank her with a little bow or a word or so, and just thank her for the gift of reflecting back to you your own potential. And she says, we are here and you can always connect with us when you need a boost. To steady your heart and to clear your mind. To have that steadiness and love in the midst of it all, in the midst of great uncertainty. And just feeling, yes, you too, we all carry that potential. We all carry that courage, love, clarity. Just need to trust it and live from that place as much as possible. And be conscious, when we are in chaos, be conscious that's fine. That builds a lot of resilience, being able to hold steady with internal and external chaos. So really taking that in, breathing that really down into the body, down to the tips of the toes and the tips of the fingers. And whenever the mind starts to wander off, which is natural, just courageously dropping that thought, dropping that habit, and just coming back to the simplicity of the present moment. And allowing life to speak for itself rather than constantly commenting on everything. For now, we can just allow life to speak for itself as body, breathing, whatever is happening now in the mind. So, and for the remainder of the meditation, is another 15 minutes or so. I leave you to yourself. And for the last few minutes of the meditation, to really look at impermanence in the body or in the mind, sounds. I'm not sure if you hear the sounds on the roof. I do hear them. I hope you don't. Lots going on here. Movement, which is life is movement. And the Buddha's teaching is all about, having a mind which is clear enough and grounded enough so that we can start to understand those patterns and have a perspective on those patterns, inside and outside the skin, so to say. And from that, from that understanding, from that wisdom, then make the right choice and respond to these deep-seated qualities in our being. The calling, how it's called in English. What are you called for this lifetime? And if we are really coming from that place, if we're really connected to that place, it's much easier to stay grounded in the midst of great uncertainty and difficulty. It doesn't need to be like a big thing, but just what is it which gives you that sense of being connected with yourself and embodying that in the world. And at the same time, not getting lost and being swallowed up. This is the middle way. That's how the teaching of the Buddha is called also. To really live your true values and at the same time to penetrate into the depths of life. The meditation doesn't solve all of our problems magically, certainly not. But it gives us that foundation from which to meet them. And that's as good as it gets. And this makes all of the difference. To meet life with an open heart and with an open mind. And the Arahant Bhikkhunis, they very much embody that strength and that gentleness at the same time. And at a time, where there is so much change and uncertainty, they come back to us, in our lives now, because we need that gentle strength. and cultivating that resiliency by opening to whatever is happening and being, based, have this foundation of the teachings and our individual qualities and strength through which we embody them in our lives. I have unfortunately forgotten again to bring a bell, so Chanda, do you have a bell handy to ring? Otherwise we have to do without. Please ring it, sister. You're muted, Chanda. Can you ring a bell? Thank you. Thank you. So when Chanda has asked me, what I'd like to speak about, and she suggested, why don't you speak about your journey, into the Bhikkhuni robes and beyond? And and I thought I like to speak about that, and I'd like to, speak about the teachers who have most influenced me on my path, and what I've learned, which quality they embodied for me and reflected back for me, so that I could actually find it in myself. And that's what a real teacher does, He or she holds the gold, your own inner gold you already have, and shows you have it yourself, you don't need me. But just for some time, there's that mirroring happening, and then when it's finished, then you move on. And then there might be like another teacher who mirrors back another quality, and when that's digested, you move on. And so it goes, until we are really firmly grounded in our own inner teacher. That's what it's all about. And the Buddha is the supreme teacher, because he by himself found this ancient path, how it's expressed in the suttas, which was, it's not that he invented the Dharma or anything, but his mind was such that he had the sensitivity and the strength of mind to recognize it, and then even to express it, which is also very difficult, to express what you have learned. So he had both of those gifts, and that's why he is like so special, why he is so, respected and highly thought about, because he had those qualities. And so now I start about my journey. I'm on that journey too, and I'm so glad that I met this teaching, because I was rather struggling at this time, when I felt I was ready for something completely different than what I had been doing all the time before. And, I had been studying cultural anthropology in Vienna, and worked in a quite successful dance theater in Vienna, which some of the Austrian people might know. It was then called the Serapions Theater. Now it's called Odeon. And, and I was really, looking for some meaning in my life. And that those, the studies and the theater as well, they gave me some kind of inspiration, and I was certainly interested, but whenever it was about, having skills for daily life, they couldn't offer much in that regard. And then when my mother suddenly died from a horse riding accident in 1986, when I was 28 years old, I really, that need for some kind of guidance on what life is all about really exploded wide open. And I just felt like I really need to have some framework. And as it said, generally when the disciple is ready, the teacher appears. And so it was with me also. I had traveled, to Thailand with a friend, and one day I found myself on a bus station in Suratani in the south of Thailand. And there was like a young Western man there with a shaved head, all dressed in white, which, is a rare occasion to see a Western man at that time in this, in the south of Thailand. And I went up to him, and believe it or not, he was Austrian. I mean, that was very, very kind of a surprise for me. And he had gone to the same hotel management school as I had gone, just 2 years before me. I had never met him. So and then I said, "Oh, you're looking rather strange, what are you doing?" And then he told me, "I'm in this monastery of Ajahn Buddhadasa, and it's about 40 kilometers from here. Why don't you visit?" Because I was at that time writing on my thesis about Thai dancing, and that kind of dance is the classic Thai dance. It's the equivalent to our ballet, I would say, in the West. And it deals a lot about the Deva realms. And so it's deeply connected with Buddhism. So I thought, I need to know a little bit about Buddhist life, and need to look inside of a monastery. So, okay, I, gave up my ticket, which I had to go to a certain island, and jumped on a songthaew and a pickup truck, and went to that monastery. And when I came in the door, by some coincidence, 3 days later, a meditation retreat started, because they had every month a 10-day meditation retreat at Wat Suan Mok in Thailand. So I said, yeah, I'm just going to stay for 3-4 days, because I can't sustain 10 days. And then I just, quietly squeeze out the back door, and nobody will notice. So, and then I was at that retreat, and then there were 2 main teachers. It was Ajahn Buddhadasa, who was at that time already in his early 80s, and his American translator, Santikaro Bhikkhu. And, and when I met them, there was just something very powerful going on in my heart. I felt like I understood, I didn't understand much English then, and I did not understand any Thai. So I did not understand much of the verbal teaching, but just their presence was enough, I immediately recognized, this is something very much in the direction what I'm looking for, some kind of a foundation for a life, really. Something really sturdy. And then, I was contemplating, what is it what is so powerful, in so a palpable presence of especially of the old Thai master. What is it? And then, to my dismay, it was like kind of, it's about ethics, it looks like. He has no remorse, and he is totally grounded in just being who he is. And the sense of equanimity of really being fully yourself, because you have no remorse. So then I all kind of added it all up, and I was thinking, I'm not very good on the ethics front myself at this time. And so I felt inspired, to kind of shape up. And then, at that time I was married with a man in Thailand, and I had a pretty rough life in some ways. And so I kept returning back to the monastery again and again, you know, and I really noticed, you know, when I'm in a monastery, I don't need a lot of stuff, what I need when I'm outside, because of all of the difficulties I had, you know, I needed certain kind of ways of distracting myself, you know, really. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I ended up getting divorced from my husband and then moved to the monastery, you know, which was rather like a classic kind of career. You know, you can hear about women doing that. I would never thought that I would ever do this, but it happened. And then I stayed there until my teacher became, you know, very, very ill. And it was clear, you know, he would not live for much longer. So then there was the question, you know, what I'm going to do next? I don't know. And I was just like opening up myself. And suddenly I found a chanting book in English in the Dharma hall there. And it said Amaravati Buddhist Monastery, England. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to go there next. And then, you know, we didn't have email then, and this was 30 years ago or more. So I wrote a letter, and then I had to wait a long time to get a letter back. And then they were saying, yes, you can come. It's not going to be what you think, but, you know, you can come. And I went there, and I never left, actually. For a very long time, I became an anagarika. And the resident teacher there was Ajahn Sumedho and the Siladhara Sangha. And, you know, that was a time of where I felt really very well held, you know. It was a time of really being able to dismantle a lot of myself, you know, because of the structure which was there and the teachers and the support. And there was a real kind of transformation process happening and a training at the same time, you know, training to be a nun. And I was there from 92 till 2009, with some short, you know, breaks when I was going on pilgrimage to India and things like that, and traveled a bit to Nepal and Thailand also. But almost the whole time I was there at Amaravati and also Chithurst. And I learned about the value of Western psychology. The Nun Sangha did a lot of psychological group work together. And we were also supported, you know, to have individual therapy. And, you know, it was all about, you know, don't give up. Just keep opening, however difficult. Keep opening. And we were supported in that, you know. And then around half time of my time at Amaravati and Chithurst, I, through another, you know, chain of coincidences, I met my Tibetan teacher, Shetchen Rabchum Rinpoche, who is the grandson of the very famous teacher Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. And I met him also, you know, by coincidence again at a Kala Chakra teaching of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Graz in 2002. And it was also like completely unsolicited, you know, a recognition between the teacher and myself. And then I kept visiting his monastery in Nepal several times. And then, you know, through the connection with him, that brought in a complete different element, which I can't really find so much in the Theravada. It's like a sense of dynamism and energy, and the arts are very much used also, you know, for opening the heart and the mind. And, you know, I just had to allow it, because it was pretty scary to me, because the connection was very much like on this kind of mysterious level, you know, you could say. It was, I've never experienced that before so strong, you know. With my first teacher, Ajahn Buddhadasa, there was also a very strong heart connection. but there was not much teaching necessary. But then with my Tibetan teacher, it was much more extreme, that side, because they are really very skilled at that. Because they have this, element of the shamanism and the Bon culture, which is the foundation on which Tibetan Buddhism was built. So they use those avenues of communication, and also through art, dancing, music, and paintings, and gestures, and costumes, and implements. There's a lot going on, and because I was coming from the art world and I've studied that in the past, I was very open to receive that communication. And that's exactly what I was missing in the Theravada. So it came together for me in that way. And then, because Amaravati Buddhist Monastery and the lineage of Ajahn Chah, they do not support Bhikkhuni ordination. At one point, after being there for like over 17 years, it became a little bit like hitting the ceiling, the glass ceiling. And there was no way for shifting. They were not ready for that, and they are still not ready for it 10 years after I have left. So just note that one, which is kind of sad to me. So then again, there was when I came back from a long pilgrimage to India and Nepal at the end of 2005, I just felt like I don't fit anymore into that Amaravati box. I've seen too much. What should I do? I'm a Siladhara, I can't handle money, I can't cook, I have all of these monastic rules, I can't go anywhere. If there's not some opening, some foundation of support. So again, it was just like the same thing, I was just sitting with that open question, and bang, an invitation came, from America. We would like you to make a branch monastery for the Siladhara Sangha in the Bay Area. And, in America, no, we don't want to go to America. It's too crazy, this country, which is kind of pretty true, actually, after living here long enough. So it didn't feel like very attractive, I must admit, But then we were struggling around, for another 2 years. And then there was the conference on Bhikkhuni ordination in Hamburg in 2007, which was called by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And then after that conference, even, there wasn't any real results in terms of the allowance, for ordination, but it was very clear, Bhikkhuni ordination is possible. There is no obstacles for that other than in the minds of the monks and of some other people. And then after that, Amaravati Buddhist Monastery and the whole Bhikkhu Sangha, they started to really crack down on us nuns, And it all escalated, in 2009 when we were given what's called the 5 points. We had to, basically pledge to abide by the 5 points, which means, that we're gonna be forever and ever junior to the monks. We ever and ever gonna be novices, because that was the Siladhara ordination was kind of a mix between Samaneri and Bhikkhuni ordination. And yeah, so that was the story. And then the whole nun sangha broke kind of apart, and half of the nuns disrobed. We were about 25 nuns at that time, I think, kind of. I'm not exactly sure, but we were quite a few nuns, and also anagarikas. And so half of them disrobed and went back to their respective countries and professions, and did things. And half of the nuns just stayed there. And me and Ayananda Bodhi, who spoke just, I think, a few weeks ago also for you, Ayachanda, right? And the two of us plus 2 other Siladhara, we took up this invitation, to make a branch monastery here in America. And then after meeting Ayatataloka, the universe is cringing, isn't it? So we left in 2009, and we started Aloka Vihara in San Francisco, and we met Ayatata Taloka, who is the most senior Western Bhikkhuni, as far as I know. I think I'm gonna say something, maybe. Okay, he's gonna wait. He's gonna wait till 11:30 my time. Okay, so yeah, what did I say? Yeah, we met Ayatata Taloka and her Sangha, and it became very clear what Ayatata Taloka is doing here. That's the true inheritance which the Buddha has left for the nuns. And we cannot, set something up and say to people, no, come to us. We are like from the famous Amaravati. We are the Siladhara. You have to come to us. We are having a much better training. It just didn't really add up. So it became clear to us, if we want to stay in America, we need to leave the Ajahn Chah lineage and we need to become bhikkhunis. And then Ananda Bodhi and myself, the other two nuns, dropped out in different ways. And then Ananda Bodhi and myself, we left the Ajahn Chah lineage in 2011. We went back to England and bowed out, took leave and said thank you for everything. And then we came back, and 6 months later, we ordained as bhikkhunis with Ayatata Taloka as our preceptor. And Jack Cornfield was also very supportive. He, made a Spirit Rock available as a venue for our ordination. And Jack Cornfield had originally been a monk also in the Ajahn Chah lineage. So he felt like, we were from the same family. And afterwards, he invited us continuously, to teach retreats and day-longs at Spirit Rock. So we had a lot of exposure, and that was very valuable for us. And also Joseph Goldstein and Sharon Salzburg invited us to teach at IMS. So we suddenly, we had to completely kind of shape up and teach like to really big gatherings. And we were very scared in the beginning, but we had to do it because that was our only way, how we could put down some roots. And we did it. And now I'm grateful, that I've done it. And yeah, so that was great. So Jack Cornfield, Bhikkhu Bodhi, also Bhikkhu Bodhi helped us a lot by really, speaking with our board and explaining to our board the importance of what we are doing, and that it is okay to leave the Ajahn Chah lineage behind formally, because Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Sumedho and the teaching we received also from the Sila Dharaya will always be in our heart. That's our foundational training in monasticism, and that will never go away, but we just needed to open up. So that was like a synthesis of everything what has gone before for me. The foundation in ethics and equanimity from Ajahn Buddhadasa, the strength of the monastic container and the healing which can happen inside of that from Amaravati and Chithurst, and then the dynamism and the mystery, from the Vajrayana, and then it all synthesized into one something, which is Aloka Vihara now. And then later also, Venerable Analeo, who was actually at our ordination at Spirit Rock, and Ajahn Pramali was there as well. So, some of the monks who have been, really standing up for the bhikkhunis. And then when Manalaya, started to teach more in America, he now lives actually on the East Coast and benefited a lot from his teaching, from his clarity and structure, a lot. And And then also my friend and mentor, Kenmo Rolma, who is a bhikkhuni in the Kagyu tradition, who has really helped me, to get a handle on the Vajrayana and how to live that as a Theravada nun. And there was also Chetsuma Tenzin Palmo, who has always been a mentor to me as well. And Ananda Bodhi and myself, we taught a retreat with Chetsuma 2 years ago at the Spirit Rock. Spirit Rock is a very, a place where so many things are possible. Where Vajrayana and Theravada teaches together, where Bhikkhuni ordination can happen. There's a lot of innovation happening there. And also, many years before, Ajahn Amaro and Tsoknyi Rinpoche taught together also at the Spirit Rock. So that was a very beautiful opportunity. And Chetsuma taught about the Therigatha as well then. And Ananda Bodhi and myself were the sidekicks, and she was the main teacher, and she taught on the poems, and we were teaching guided meditations, to the qualities she was speaking about on that day. So that was a very beautiful way of working with her together. And also, maybe that's interesting, I finished the Ngöndro, which is the preliminary practices in Vajrayana Buddhism, which is like about 800,000 things to do, prostrations and mantras and visualizations and all of that. So it took me 7 years to do it, on the side, so to say, because I had to, work and set up a Loka Vihara and be teaching and so on. And then in my kind of free time, I was getting the Ngöndro done, and that was very important for me as well, to have that foundation, which is a foundation which is very much built on devotion and on the willingness, to kind of not know when you're ever going to finish with it, and if you're ever going to finish with it, because it's so many things to count that you give up. The linear mind can't really deal with it. It gets too frustrating. So I think that was very helpful as well for me. And so, and now I'm 62. And now I'm wondering, what's the next step? Because Aloka Vihara is really well established now, and we are now 6 nuns here. We are 4 bhikkhunis, 1 samaneri, and 1 anagarika at the moment. And for me, my next step is now, I feel like, to start to teach in my mother language, because I've never done that before. I've taught maybe 2 short weekend retreats, 1 in Switzerland and 1 in Hungary. And that was the only thing I ever did in German. So I feel like to really connect with the teaching in my own language will bring it deeper. And that's why I have now started, together with Sabrina, to work on the Therigatha poems. We just started last week ago, actually. And also, I try to visit Esther's group in Vienna whenever COVID allows for that. And looks like it's not going to happen this year. So I'm in the process of developing some kind of online teaching with the group in Vienna twice a month. And if anybody of the German speaking people are interested in that, you could write to me on our website. And once we have it, up and running, then I could, send you that information. We are planning to start in November with the regular teachings. So, what I want to actually say with, now he's still doing it. I don't know. Still drilling out there.
It's not bad. It's okay for us. We don't hear it much. Yeah, don't worry.
Good. Yeah. Because it sounds like kind of very loud here. And I think what I wanted to kind of what I wanted to express with my story and about my path was, once you really connect with this inner calling, the universe comes to your aid. It just like suddenly you meet that person, you find that book, you get that invitation, you know, things are just like, and it was always, you know, the most important turning points. I've written it down, you know, because so I don't lose track. I can see, you know, the most important turning points on my journey, that was always things which came from outside, so to say, you know, outside of myself. The meeting the man at the bus stop in Suratani, then, you know, finding the chanting book in Suanmok, then having that mysterious kind of communication with my first Tibetan teacher, getting the invitation from America, and then also, you know, now meeting some people from the meditation group in Vienna. It also happened, you know, through Ajahn Suchato, a monk who came by for a one-day visit here. So, you know, I've really developed that faith or that trust, you know, that if we are really opening our hearts and minds, we will be guided. But what's really needed is to have that sense of grounding and stability, so that we can actually hear the call, you know. Because I don't know how many calls I didn't hear, but those few I did, and that is good enough for me, you know. But I couldn't have made that up by myself. There's really a call and response happening, you know, and that depends on the clarity of our mind, you know, on the development of our minds and of our hearts. And you know, the Buddha's teaching is all about that, and it's about, you know, developing the 7 factors of awakening, you know, sensitizing the mind so it can see clearly what is going on. It's not having a different experience than what we are having, but really seeing into it and seeing through it. And then, you know, we're gonna be changed, and then we're gonna meet our experience in a different way. And that's where we have a power, you know, we can change ourselves. We can't change the outside world, but we can change ourselves. And then our experience of the outside world is changing, because our minds and our hearts getting bigger and bigger. And that, you know, reminds me, and I'll close with that example, you know, that sutta about the lump of salt. You know, if you have a lump of salt and you put it in a small cup, it's going to taste pretty terrible. But if the lump of salt drops into the Ganges or into Lake Tahoe, it's up the road from here, you won't taste it. Or just a little, because the mind has a lot of space. And things can come and go, and they can be food for practice. Because, you know, all phenomena yield liberation as their essence, because they are all empty of a self, impermanent, and unsatisfactory. And that's where I'm ending. And if you have any comments or questions, we have another 20 minutes, right?
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for that beautiful Dhamma talk.
Thank you.
Sadhu. We'll do Ajahn Brahm style. Sadhus. Sadhu. Sadhu. Sadhu.
Thank you. I've seen that on photos, yes. I've seen